Welcome to this explainer. All right, let's just jump right in and drop a bit of a truth bomb. Our brains are making thousands, literally thousands, of hidden decisions every single day, and most of them happen without us even realizing it. We might think we're in total control of our choices, our feelings, and our reactions, but as we're going to see today, the mind kind of has a mind of its own.
So, to truly understand our own behavior, we're going to group 10 research-backed psychological facts into 4 major themes here: the hidden patterns, how we connect, the ego and perception, and the illusion of choice, before finally wrapping up with taking back control.
Okay, let's dive into this. Part 1. The hidden patterns, or your brain on autopilot. Psychologists have spent decades trying to uncover the secret patterns shaping our actions, and it turns out your mind runs on these built-in shortcuts that shaped human behavior long before you or I were even born. The absolutely crucial first step to recognizing these influences and taking back your autonomy is just understanding that these hidden patterns exist in the first place. This basically sets the stage for the specific mental biases we're about to uncover together. Moving on to Part 2, how we connect, also known as the social brain. So, our social interactions usually feel totally spontaneous, right? But take a look at this massive number, 150. This is Dunbar's number. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar found that thanks to the actual physical limits of our human neocortex, we can really only maintain about 150 stable social relationships at once. Go beyond that, and things just naturally get pretty distant or superficial. And within that 150, you have a tiny inner circle of just about 5 people who make up your absolute closest bonds. Kind of makes you rethink that huge social media friend count, doesn't it?
Which brings us to emotional contagion. This is the unconscious mimicking of facial expressions, tone, and posture of the people around you. Emotions are quite literally contagious. Because of specialized brain cells called mirror neurons, we can easily catch stress or joy just by walking into a room full of people feeling that way, even if absolutely nothing happened to us directly. Your brain sees someone else's posture, mimics it, and boom, suddenly you are feeling their feelings.
Now think honestly about this for a second. If you were in an emergency, would a crowd of 10 people or a single passerby be more likely to help you? Logic says more people means more chances of getting help, right? Well, the answer reveals a super surprising, famously studied phenomenon dating back to 1964.
The answer lies in the Bystander Effect. Psychologists John Darley and Bib Latané found that the presence of a crowd actually decreases the likelihood of any single person helping. Why? It's due to what they called a diffusion of responsibility. Basically, when a crowd is present, everyone's brain automatically assumes someone else is going to step in and take responsibility. The terrifying irony here is that you're statistically far more likely to get help from one single isolated passerby than from a crowd of 10 people just standing around looking at each other.
All right, Part 3, the ego and perception, or tricking the self. It's not just our social lives our brains mess with. They heavily distort how we view ourselves and our daily tasks, too. Seriously, why does that one unfinished email keep popping into your head at 2 a.m.? We have all been there, haven't we? You're exhausted, you're trying to sleep, but your brain just will not let go of that one minor thing you didn't finish at work. It's maddening, but it perfectly introduces a fascinating memory bias. The culprit here is the Zeigarnik Effect. This is your brain's tendency to remember unfinished tasks way longer than completed ones, simply because it treats them like an open loop, quietly nagging at your attention. Psychologist Bluma Zeigarnik actually discovered this by watching cafe waiters. She noticed they remembered complex, unpaid orders perfectly, but the absolute second the bill was paid, poof, the memory was wiped totally clean. It's literally the exact same psychological trick that makes TV cliffhangers keep us so hooked. Now consider this. In a study, people wearing an embarrassing t-shirt guessed that half the room noticed them. In reality, less than a quarter actually did. This is known as the spotlight effect, studied by psychologist Thomas Gilovich. You see, we dramatically overestimate how much other people notice our mistakes or our appearance. We feel like we're walking around with a giant spotlight shining right on us. But I can absolutely assure you, most people are simply too focused on themselves and their own imaginary spotlights to notice you nearly as much as you think they do. And this brilliantly illustrates the Ben Franklin effect. Walk through these steps with me. Step 1, you do a favor for someone. Step 2, your brain justifies the effort. And step 3, you actually end up liking that person more. Sounds completely backwards, doesn't it? But it's rooted in cognitive consistency.
If you help someone, your brain concludes you must like them, otherwise why on earth would you have exerted the effort? Your mind literally adjusts your feelings to match your helpful actions. Benjamin Franklin supposedly used this exact trick to win over a rival just by asking to borrow a book from him.
Moving on to part 4, the illusion of choice and how we buy and decide.
Our daily decisions, especially as consumers, are constantly being steered by hidden biases. Just think about the high trust and comfort we naturally feel toward a familiar coworker or an ad we've seen 100 times, versus the skepticism we feel toward strangers or totally new brands. This is the mere exposure effect, proven by psychologist Robert Zions in the 1960s. The rule here is simple. The more you're exposed to something, the more you tend to like it. Simple familiarity creates comfort in the brain, even if there's no logical reason behind it. It's exactly why repetition in advertising works so incredibly well.
Let's see how this builds into our purchasing habits. Look at these two pricing strategies. A shirt simply priced at $60 versus a shirt marked $100, now $60. If you're like most people, that second one feels like a much better deal. This is the anchoring bias, studied by Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. Your brain anchors to the very first piece of information it gets, in this case, that higher, completely irrelevant $100 price tag, and then judges the $60 price relative to it.
Here's another wild shopping scenario. On one hand, a display of 24 varieties of jam, which paradoxically leads to low sales and anxiety. On the other hand, just 6 varieties, leading to confident purchases. Psychologist Barry Schwartz calls this the paradox of choice. We always naturally assume having more options will make us happier, but the exact opposite is true. Too many choices overload the brain, increasing second-guessing, decision fatigue, and ultimately regret over whatever choice we end up making.
Now, think about this super familiar process. Step 1, assemble the furniture yourself. Step 2, feel a sense of ownership and pride. Step 3, perceive that slightly wobbly, imperfect result as highly valuable. Behavioral economist Dan Ariely studied this phenomenon, aptly naming it the IKEA Effect. The sheer effort you put into building something artificially inflates its value in your mind. Because you built it, it's an absolute masterpiece to you, regardless of how it actually looks to anyone else.
And finally, part 5, taking back control and mastering your mind.
The human brain is a marvel, for sure, but man, it loves to cut corners. Let's take a quick mental snapshot of the journey we just completed so you can start recognizing these biases out in the wild. We covered the mere exposure effect, making us love the familiar, the Zeigarnik Effect, keeping us up at night, the social limits of Dunbar's number, and the dangerous diffusion of the Bystander Effect. We saw how the anchoring bias manipulates our wallets, how emotional contagion spreads moods, and how the spotlight effect makes us terribly self-conscious. Finally, we learned how the Ben Franklin effect shifts our loyalties, the paradox of choice paralyzes us in the grocery aisle, and the IKEA effect makes us cherish our wobbly, hand-built furniture.
So here is a question I want to leave you with today. Which of these 10 hidden patterns surprised you the most? And more importantly, which one is controlling your decisions right now? The mind is a wildly fascinating place, and the more you learn about its hidden patterns, the more truly free your choices can become. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember to always keep questioning what you think you know.